Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris's big moment on the final night of the Democratic National Convention, formally accepting her party's nomination. What we're learning about the biggest speech of her career after an emotional speech from her running mate, Governor Tim Walz.
We're going to leave it on the field. That's how we'll keep moving forward.
A special edition of the CBS Evening News from Chicago starts now. The stage is set, the crowd is excited, and Vice President Kamala Harris is hours away from officially becoming her party's nominee. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us on the fourth and final night of the Democratic National Convention. And we're learning new details about Harris's big speech tonight. The campaign says there are three goals: reintroducing herself to America, drawing sharp contrast between her policies and Donald Trump's, and finally, talking about patriotism and unity. All of it in an effort to turn enthusiasm into votes. And in just a month, Kamala Harris went from nominee for vice president to the top of the ticket, and a convention focused on her. CBS's Ed O'Keefe is on the convention floor with a preview.
A historic moment for Kamala Harris. Locked in a dead heat with Donald Trump, the vice president will use tonight's primetime address to define herself before a national audience, a crucial opportunity to move undecided voters in her direction.
This is a people-powered campaign, and together we will chart a new way forward.
She's set to focus on her family's immigrant story. Her mother's from India, her father from Jamaica, and promote her middle-class upbringing in California's Bay Area, where she'd become district attorney and then attorney general. Her Senate win in 2016 came the night Trump won the White House. Harris told CBS News in 2019 allies urged her to seek even higher office almost immediately.
It was actually presented to me as something I should seriously consider, and it was after the election in 2016. I mean, it has not been my life's aim.
All week, speakers have credited Harris for injecting joy into the campaign.
She has never hesitated to reach across that aisle if it meant improving your lives. And she's always done it with energy, with passion, and with joy.
California Senator LaFonza Butler has known Harris for almost 15 years and says the convention's focus on joy is on purpose.
She never backs away from a hard choice, but she always chooses to do it together with others, and that's what brings her joy.
Harris's speech is expected to take on tough issues like immigration and possibly Israel's war with Hamas. Convention organizers have denied speaking time for anyone to discuss the devastation in Gaza, angering the roughly 30 pro-Palestinian delegates uncommitted to Harris.
The discussion of Palestinian human rights within our party has long been suppressed, and we are at a boiling point. We are at a tipping point. It's time to stop brushing this under the rug.
Harris's speech tonight coincides with the 60th anniversary of a speech to the 1964 Democratic Convention by civil rights activist Fannie Lou Hamer, who denounced the party for not letting her sit with an integrated delegation from her home state of Mississippi. Several speakers this week have said if Hamer hadn't spoken out then, Harris's nomination might not be possible now. Nora?
So much has changed in important history. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much. In hopes of drawing attention away from the convention, former President Donald Trump is campaigning in the battleground state of Arizona to focus on immigration. Trump toured the U.S.-Mexico border, where he accused Vice President Harris of not doing enough to stop the flow of illegal immigrants. CBS's Caitlin Huey-Burns is there.
Former President Trump went to the Arizona border today to tie the thorny immigration issue to his rival, Kamala Harris.
We had a border czar who was the border czar. She loved the title, but she didn't want to do the work because she's lazy.
Trump has called Harris the border czar repeatedly, but she was actually tasked by the president with dealing with the root causes of immigration from Central America, not the crisis at the border. This is Trump's fourth visit to a battleground state in as many days, and CBS News polling shows 87% of Republicans say immigration is a major factor in their vote this election. It's been a constant attack line for Trump, using increasingly harsh rhetoric.
She is a radical left Marxist. She wants open borders. She wants our country. I don't understand why anybody would want it, but she wants our country to be open to the world's criminals. so they can come in and rape and pillage.
What Trump leaves out is that illegal border crossing numbers are at their lowest point in 4 years, due in part to the executive actions taken by President Biden in June. Democrats, including Harris, have criticized Trump for helping to kill a bipartisan Senate deal that would have strengthened border enforcement and increased funds for detention centers.
He tanked the bipartisan deal because he thought it would help him win an election. Which goes to show Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
And the U.S. Supreme Court today reinstated an Arizona state law that requires proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. And here in Arizona, every vote counts. President Biden won here in 2020 by just under 11,000 votes. Nora?
Caitlin Huey Burns in Arizona for us tonight. Thank you very much. Back here at the convention, let's bring in CBS's Nancy Cordes and Robert Costa. And Nancy, describe how big of a moment this is for Vice President Harris.
Nora, it is huge. You know, presidential candidates normally have a year, even a year and a half, to introduce themselves to the public. Harris has 3 months, and while she's not exactly starting from scratch, she has been operating in the shadow of President Biden for the past 3.5 years. It's a cardinal rule for vice presidents: never outshine the boss. But now, suddenly, this entire convention is built around her. Everyone is talking about her. And tonight, it's finally her turn to help the country get to know her better, her personality, her background, where she wants to take the country. A campaign official told me a short time ago she's had a relaxing day, surrounded by family and friends, going over the speech a few times. He said the #1 thing she wants to do tonight is to contrast her view for the future of the country with Donald Trump's. And on top of all that, Nora, she has to figure out a way to convey that joy that so many speakers here have been insisting all week that she is going to bring to the job.
An important night, no doubt. Nancy Cordes, thank you so much. And Robert Costa, Election Day, 75 days away. They're going to begin early voting next month. This is a challenge for both candidates.
And my Republican sources inside the Trump campaign today say they're watching the Democratic convention, but they warn politically this is the calm before the storm. Former President Trump in Arizona today will be again in Arizona tomorrow. Maybe even getting an endorsement from Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the independent candidate, though that's all still to be determined. Immigration, though, will be at the fore of advertising, messaging. It's a celebration tonight, but she will have to answer attack after attack in the coming weeks.
Interviews, debates, controversy, a lot still ahead in this campaign.
She better sit down with you.
Robert Costa, thank you. And turning overseas, Ukraine is intensifying its drone warfare against Russia. Look at the huge smoke plume and big flames after a strike on a critical military airbase in southwest Russia. And this attack comes just one day after nearly a dozen drones were shot down near Moscow. CBS's Ian Lee is on the ground in Ukraine, bringing us an up-close look at how troops there are training on this critical technology.
Somewhere near the border with Russia, a Ukrainian drone team gets to work. Speed and stealth are the order of business. Private Igor pilots the drone, a combination of skill and luck.
If the target is static, it's pretty easy to hit. If it's a moving target, then it's much harder.
We join this squad from the 117th Territorial Defense Brigade as it preps for a trip to the front in support of the operation in Russia's Kursk region. What's your mission today?
We always have a single mission. We are destroying the enemy.
Sergeant Alex leads the unit. Their workhorse is a $400 drone that can haul 4 pounds of explosives up to 5 miles.
This is the simplest drone in our arsenal.
On an average day, this squad carries out up to 5 search and destroy missions, targeting Russian armor, vehicles, and troops. But Moscow has its own drones, and more of them. A successful mission here means Igor could be watching someone's final moments. Does it ever feel personal?
Yes, it's emotional, but I understand that we chose the right path.
An increasingly dangerous path they hope leads to victory. Ian Lee, CBS News, near the Ukraine-Russia border.
A former politician and accused murderer took the stand in his own defense in Las Vegas today. He told the jury he did not kill a newspaper reporter who wrote critical articles about him. CBS's Carter Evans is at the courthouse with what we learned during cross-examination.
You went out. High drama in a Las Vegas courtroom. Prosecutors grilling Robert Tellis, a former elected official accused of murder.
How in the world does your DNA get underneath Mr. Gehrman's fingernails?
I don't know, because I did not kill Mr. Gehrman.
Jeff German was an investigative reporter for the Las Vegas Review-Journal for more than 4 decades. Back in 2022, he was found stabbed to death outside his home. The attack came after he published reports alleging Tellis fostered a hostile work environment while serving as a public administrator. Shortly after, Tellis lost re-election. Prosecutors say surveillance video shows Tellis dressed in a neon jacket and gardener's hat near the scene of the crime. That hat and sneakers allegedly worn by the killer were found in a search of Tellis's property. But Tellis claims he was framed and the evidence was planted, taking the stand in his own defense and addressing the jury directly.
I've never killed anybody. I didn't kill Mr. Gehrman.
Tellis said he'd never been at German's house, but prosecutors say he had been there and took numerous surveillance photos.
There's over 100 images of Bronze Circle neighborhood in your phone.
If it is in there, I didn't put it there, sir.
Now, Tellis's attorney repeatedly advised him not to take the stand, but Tellis also has a law degree and he insisted on testifying. Now, the prosecution says the evidence against him is just overwhelming, but the one piece of evidence they don't have is the murder weapon. Nora?
It is quite a story. Carter Evans, thank you so much. Vice President Kamala Harris has traveled a long and winding road from growing up in the Bay Area to accepting her party's nomination for president. We'll take a look at her journey and where it began next. Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris will take one step closer in her quest for the highest office in the land when she accepts the presidential nomination at the DNC. It's a long way from where she grew up in Berkeley, California, where she first honed her political chops in the district attorney's office in the Bay Area. CBS's Nicole Killian takes a look at the early days of the historic nominee.
Kamala Harris was born in 1964 at the height of the civil rights movement to immigrant parents. Her father, Donald, an economist from Jamaica. Her mother, Shamala, a cancer researcher from India, who raised her and sister Maya in this modest Berkeley Flats apartment.
We didn't grow up with a lot, but we grew up with a lot of love.
Carol Border lived down the street and was bused with Kamala to Thousand Oaks Elementary to integrate Berkeley Public Schools.
We didn't think about it. We just really thought about ourselves as people, and we were very prideful about who we were as Black women.
After graduating Howard University and attending law school, Harris began her career at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office.
I needed somebody I could trust.
Former San Francisco Mayor and California Assembly Speaker Willie Brown mentored Harris and appointed her to 2 state commissions, but they briefly became romantic in the mid-90s.
How would you characterize that relationship?
It's a great friendship.
When's the last time you've spoken with her?
It's been a long time. Been a very long time. And I miss that.
Harris won her first campaign in 2004 for San Francisco DA, then California Attorney General in 2010. Some progressives called out Harris for being too tough on crime, but conservatives criticized her for being too lenient by supporting policies that lowered criminal penalties.
Whoever is characterizing her as Kamala the cop, I think is mischaracterizing her.
Steve Cooley ran against her for Attorney General.
Kamala being soft on crime, I think that's a little closer to the mark.
Her record now back in the national spotlight.
When we fight, we win.
As she prosecutes her case for the presidency. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Oakland.
And there's some important health news tonight for women about a possible new treatment for menopause symptoms. That's next. In tonight's Health Watch, a possible new once-a-day pill to treat the symptoms of menopause. According to drug maker Bayer, 2 new trials found the experimental new drug, elinzanetant, reduces the frequency and severity of hot flashes, improves sleep, and could potentially prevent excess fat, all without using hormones. The FDA approved a similar drug last year, sold as Veozah. Eye on America is next with an ongoing effort to heal the political divide in this country. Each night here in Chicago, we've heard Democratic leaders address the division that defines our politics. But there's an effort to bridge that divide that's been underway long before this week. In tonight's Eye on America, CBS's Jim Axelrod shows us the power of personal connection to heal and why we may soon need it more than ever.
This cocktail party in Columbus, Georgia,
when we start to dehumanize each other, that's extremely dangerous,
is actually one man's attempt to bridge our national civic divide.
And you all had the courage to say enough.
Dave Isay runs One Small Step, an initiative that pairs people from opposite ends of the political spectrum for a 1-hour conversation. He believes fiercely in the healing properties of contact and connection.
The big dream for One Small Step is to convince the country that it's our patriotic duty to see the humanity in people with whom we disagree. I think we're all, brainwashed.
We don't hate each other.
No. And when you actually have the experience of being in contact with other people, it washes away.
Shauna Hartley and Roxanne Gwynn.
I'm a registered Republican.
I'm a lifelong Democrat.
Both fit the bill.
Hello, my name is Shauna. I am 63 years old.
And I am Roxanne. I am 71 years old.
And after their One Small Step conversation, prove Isay's point.
Shauna and I are One Small Step partners.
They didn't spend time on policy differences. They focused instead on their shared love of faith, family, and plant-based diets.
So the way our culture sees it, you two probably can't sit at the same table for 30 seconds, much less an hour.
Or we could.
Or we could.
And we did.
And we are.
And we shall.
To frame the job that One Small Step has cut out for itself, consider this. In 2016, 47% of Republicans considered Democrats immoral. Not closed-minded, not dishonest, immoral. And by 2022, that number was 72%. For Democrats, 35% considered Republicans immoral. By 2022, it was 63%. Which is why he's brought One Small Step to this city of 200,000 on the banks of the Chattahoochee River in western Georgia, a crucial battleground state.
We are gearing up for the moment after the election, which is going to be one of the most critical moments in history in terms of polarization, to try and build the muscle of seeing each other as human beings so that we can withstand this incredible stress test.
Columbus is one of 3 cities where they're testing the potential of their concept to mitigate a looming crisis.
And the idea is that they can show the rest of the country what it means to have the courage to listen.
It's awesome.
Listen to each other, despite their differences, just like Shauna and Roxanne.
What kind of shape are we in as a culture?
I think we're very wounded right now. We're very angry.
However, the wound is where the light gets in. And I'm hoping that this whole process here and many other processes are that light. And we just need to be open to it.
For One Small Step, that would be a massive return. For Eye on America, I'm Jim Axelrod in Columbus, Georgia.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Our special coverage of the Democratic National Convention continues next here on CBS. I'm Norah O'Donnell in Chicago. We'll see you in a moment.